Good day, everyone. We are a group 7. The topic for today is about the unpacking curriculum standards and competencies. This chapter discusses the process for unpacking curriculum standards and competencies, which is one of the essential tasks of the teachers in implementing the K-12 basic education curriculum. Curriculum standards are wisely used. Curriculum standards are a broad statement of what students need to know and do as a result of learning. In the DepEd K-12 curriculum standards are classified as the content standards, performance standards, and learning competencies. The Department of Education is Memorandum Order Number 8 Series of 2015 defined curriculum standards are competencies as the content standards identified and set the essential knowledge and understanding that should be learned by the student. In this topic, they describe what the knowledge and skill that students should attain, often called the what students should know and be able to do. Performance standard describe the abilities and skill that the learners are expected to demonstrate in relation to the content standards and the integrations of 21st century skills. The learning competencies refers to the knowledge, skills, and understanding that learners need to demonstrate in every lesson or activity. Isolate and then define skill need for the problem solving, reasoning, and making connections of other informations. Thus, learning competencies help students to grow and build upon what they know and how they think and what to do. Now, allow me to discuss the step in unpacking curriculum standards and competencies. There are 7 several essential steps of unpacking curriculum, but in my part, I will discuss the step 1. Step 1 that classifies standard as knowledge, skills, and values. The knowledge if the learner's competencies call for remembrance and basic comprehensions of a concept or a skill. Skill if the learning competencies called for the learner to demonstrate or apply skills or desired behavior. Values if the learning competencies called for valuing and appreciations. And the example of the knowledge discuss the different forms of government, analyze the importance of water for living organisms, discuss rules and subjective verb agreement, define percentage, and the example of the skill, it is the calculate cost of production, plan the menu, solve word problem, calculate the mean and median. And the example of the values, appreciate various forms of literature, recognize the importance of cooperation and unity in achieving goal, respect different national symbols of the country. And the last is the appreciate example of Baroque music. Next, reporter, we will discuss the step 2.
Step 2. Identify the prerequisite knowledge, skills, and values for each learning competency. It could serve as instructional objectives for the lesson. Examples are describing changes in materials based on the effect of the temperature. Those are the solid to liquid, liquid to solid, liquid to gas, or solid to gas. The students can actually describe changes in materials based on the effect of temperature. You should be able to describe temperatures such as hot or cold. Observe the effect of temperature on the materials. Step 3. Look for the desired skills or behavior in every competency. Identify the most suitable activity for each desirable behavior. Example: create crafts that can be locally assembled with local materials, guided by local traditional techniques. The desired behavior or skill in this learning competency is for students to create these crafts, assembled with local materials, guided by local traditional techniques. This could be done through lecture, workshop, and project-based approach, or individual or group project. The activities will serve as instructional strategies for teaching the learning competencies. Step 4. Classify learning competencies to determine appropriate assessment tools. SCT or standard with conventional testing. SPT or standard with performance tests. SCD or standards for continuing development. Standard with conventional testing or SAT. These are learning competencies that require traditional assessment tools like quizzes and exams. Examples are describing the characteristics of sounds, identifying primary colors, discussing the judicial system in the Philippines, and explaining different communication models. Next is the Standards with Performance Tests or SPT. These are learning competencies that require performance tests for assessment or authentic assessment. Examples are performing examples of Philippine folk dance, writing an essay about a selected topic, demonstrate how to dissect an insect, and painting using natural and indigenous materials. Last, Standards for Continuing Development or SCD. These are competencies that focus on values and attitudes that cannot be assessed. Examples are recognizing basic human rights of a person, appreciating the role of mathematics in everyday life, developing healthy eating habits, and respect different cultural practices. As you can see here, this is the revised Bloom's Taxonomy by Anderson and Kraftwerk. Some teachers also use the Taxonomy of Educational Objectives for unpacking curriculum standards and competencies. The Taxonomy for Educational Objectives were developed and published by Bloom and Kraftwerk in 1956. The Bloom's Taxonomy has become popular for teachers, especially in developing instructional objectives. Bloom uses a multi-tiered scale to express the level of expertise required to achieve each measurable student outcome. According to Bloom, educational objectives can be categorized into three domains. First is the knowledge-based, second, skills-based, and third, affective. This technique can help teachers teach and students learn. Bloom's revised taxonomy is simply an update to the original that made expanded on the vision of the original. Simply put, this revised version is in verb form. As you can see, there are 6 levels and action verbs. Let's start in the first level. Remember, it is the recalling facts and basic concepts. It is the defining, identifying, describing, recognizing, explaining, and memorizing. Next level is the understand. It is the explaining ideas and concepts. It is the summarizing, interpreting, classifying, comparing, and relating. Next is the apply. It is the use information in new situation. Is the solving, changing, relating, completing, articulating, and involving and manipulating. Next is the analyze. It is the analyzing to make connections between ideas. It is the contrasting, connecting, relating, and calculating, and adapting and concluding. Next is the evaluate. It is the justifying a decision, is the criticizing, reframing, judging, and refining, and evolving and redesigning. And lastly is the create. It is the producing new or original work. It is the designing, modifying, role-playing, developing, formulating, and imagining new design. When putting together a math lesson plan, it's worth When putting together a lesson plan, it's worth noting that it's often necessary to apply before introducing new concepts. So the real-world context comes first and the theory comes second. Here's an example. When teaching in volume in letters, you might want to look at the volume of real objects before you introduce the theory of volume. By doing this, you are encouraging children to ground their new learning in familiar contexts. So, practically, the progressive levels help you to differentiate activities and provide greater depth for advanced learners.
Next is Bloom's taxonomy for affective objectives. So here are the graph for Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, and the first is internalizing values. Internalizing values refers to characterization, has a value system that controls their behavior. The behavior is pervasive, consistent, predictable, and most importantly, characteristic of the learner. Okay, for example, shows self-reliance when working independently. It cooperates in group activities, even if it displays teamwork, uses an objective approach in problem solving. Next is organization. It organizes values into priorities by contrasting different values, resolving conflicts between them, and creating a unique value system. The emphasis is on comparing, relating, and synthesizing values. For example, it recognizes the need for balance between freedom and responsible behavior, accepts responsibility for one's behavior, explains the role of systematic planning in solving problems. Next is valuing. The worth or value of a person attaches to a particular object, phenomenon, or behavior. This ranges for simple acceptance to the more complex state of commitment. Valuing is based on the internalization of a set of specified values, while clues to these values are expressed in the learner's behavior and often identifiable. For example, it demonstrates beliefs in the democratic process towards individual and cultural differences, shows the ability to solve problems, proposes a plan to social improvement, and follows through with commitment. Next is responding. Responding to a phenomena. Active participation on the part of the learners. Attends and reacts to a particular phenomenon. Learning outcomes may emphasize compliance in responding, willingness to respond, or satisfaction in responding. Examples: participates in class discussions, gives a presentation, questions new idea, concept, models in order to fully understand them. Last is receiving. Receiving phenomena, awareness, willingness to hear, selected attention. For example is, listen to others with respect, listens for and remember the name of newly introduced people. Next slide. Taxonomy for skills-based objectives. So, taxonomy for skills-based objectives includes organization, adaptation, mechanism, guided response, set, and perception. Okay, Fink's taxonomy of significant learning. Learning how to learn. Okay, becoming a better student, inquiring about subject and self-directing learners. Next is foundational knowledge. Understanding and remembering information, ideas. Next is application. Application indicates skills thinking, critical, creative, and practical thinking, and managing objects. Integration. Integration indicates connecting ideas, connecting with people, and in real life. Next is human dimension. Okay, in human dimension, it indicates learning about oneself and learning about others. And last is caring. Okay, caring indicates developing new feelings, interest, and values. Okay, that's all. Thank you.